Welcome to episode 150 of Sports Talk with Dad. Breaking news: Bucks fire their head coach mid-season. What does this mean for the organization going forward? The Packers lose a game they clearly should have won, but is there such thing as a moral victory? And Devante Adams has come out and said he will play for two quarterbacks. And I think both names will surprise you. This and more coming up on Sports Talk with Dad right now. Welcome to Sports Talk with Dad's 150th episode. We have another amazing show here for you today. As always, my name is Kyle, and I cannot call this Sports Talk with Dad without the man sitting next to me, a man who was actually alive the last time the Lions even played for a championship in the NFL. My dad, Tim.
Actually, I wasn't. They've been living through the curse of Bobby Lane since I think like 1956 or 57.
Did you know that since JFK's assassination, he has missed 3 playoff victories for the Detroit Lions?
That's a weird reference to make, but I get it.
It's a fun one, though.
Yeah.
That's crazy, though. So since 1963, the Lions have just won their 3rd playoff victory. That's statistically almost impossible that they've gone that long. The fact that they went from 63 to 92 without a playoff victory, and then, or 91, I should say, and then 91 to where they are now without a playoff victory,
They never should have.
You're more likely to win the lottery than that happening.
They never should have traded Bobby Lane.
It's clearly the curse of Bobby Lane. They fixed it with trading Stafford, proof by the fact that he won a Super Bowl the very next year. And then all of a sudden, the year after Stafford wins a Super Bowl with another team, they all of a sudden have 2 playoff victories.
And I know we're going to talk about this later in the show, but Jared Goff is getting no love, and he should. I think he's a better quarterback than people are giving him credit for.
I think we're going to have a fight on that one. But before that, there is breaking news. You know, I have
breaking news sound. Oh, did you push one? No,
that was more fun. The Bucks have fired Adrian Griffin, their head coach, with a 30-13 record.
It was one of the most uninspired 30-13s I've ever seen. I mean, they lost to Indiana. They should have been in Las Vegas for the finals.
They should
weren't. What they lose?
I want to get into certain statistics here on why he got fired, because it's going to make perfect sense here in just a minute. But before we get into those, I have a trivia question for you.
Okay.
So I went back the last 25 years, and there have been 2 instances where coaches across the 4 major sports have been fired with winning records in the middle of the season. Can you name those 2 head coaches?
Well, this was beyond 25 years, but the first one that came to mind was Paul Westphal when he got fired for Pat Riley for the Showtime Lakers.
I didn't go back that far.
Yeah.
I just
Did Doc Rivers get fired?
Not in the middle of a season with a winning record, no.
Okay.
Fired after the season. There are
How about
2.
the guy in
One
Cleveland?
is NBA. What was it?
I don't know what his name is, but the guy in Cleveland, because I know he didn't get it.
David Blatt.
Okay. I knew he didn't get along with LeBron.
41-30 record, and was fired in the middle of the season where they eventually went on to win a national championship in 2015-16.
You mean an NBA championship?
NBA, what did I say?
National championship.
Oh, my bad. An NBA championship with his successor. Yes, he wasn't getting along with LeBron. That was LeBron's firing. Most successful American European coach of all time with a winning record. There is one more. And if you don't get this.
Well, it's Mike McCarthy.
Nope.
No?
He didn't have a winning record when he was fired.
He was fired mid-season. If I don't get this, well, I'm not going to. Clearly, I'm not going to.
It was in 2008
Okay.
in baseball.
Oh, Ned Yost.
Ned Yost, 83-67 record. They had a little bump where they almost didn't make the playoffs. The Brewers panicked and fired him with 12 games remaining in the season.
And it did turn the team around a little bit. Ned Yost, of course, that went on to win the World Series with Kansas City right after that.
Yep.
It's not the first time the Brewers did that, although that late in the season was unusual.
12 games left.
12 games left.
12 games left.
They fired Buck Showalter, or not Buck Showalter, Buck, whatever his name was, for the Brewers back in 1982. And then they hired Harvey Keene, but that was in June. I mean, there was a lot of season left.
How did I know you were going to bring up the 1982 Brewers? You always find a way.
I love them.
You always find a way. I just went the last 25 years, and those were the two that I found. I remembered Ned Yost and David Blatt once I saw them, and I figured you would know too. There's one statistic for the reason Adrian Griffin was fired. You know where the Bucks rank in defensive ratings?
Considering every time I watch, they're giving up 120, 125 points. Yeah. They've got to be in the bottom half.
25th out of 30 teams. They're ahead of the Spurs, Hawks, Pistons, Pacers, and Wizards. All but one have a losing record.
Griffin is a defensive expert, so-called.
Apparently not. They were giving up 120 points per game.
So what do you do from here? I mean,
114 points per 100 possessions, which means the other team's getting way more than 100 possessions for that to be the average.
I heard before we came on the air, Doc Rivers' name, but Doc Rivers' name comes up all the time. He played at Marquette.
There are talks apparently with him. Everybody's saying he's going to be the next one. Now we are again recording this on Tuesday, right?
Right.
So we don't.
I know
this will obviously be announced by the time our show comes out.
They gave one of the assistants the interim coach. I've got to be honest with you. You know, Doc Rivers gets along with veteran players very well. He likes older teams.
Yep. But he doesn't win anything.
Why don't they go and talk and bring back Budenholzer?
Budenholzer?
Yeah.
Coach Bud? I don't know. We talked about this on the show. I thought he was unfairly fired after the loss. I get why they fired him.
Yeah, but go into what was going on with his life.
He should have never coached. His brother had died 2 days before then. He never should have been the coach of that team. He should have stepped away, taken the time. It was just Giannis got hurt in that series because they were asking too much of him because everybody else was hurt for the Bucks at that time too. They had taken some steps back, but I thought that was an unjust firing. And I would go back and get him. I don't know why you wouldn't.
It's going to be a three-way conversation. It's going to be the Bucks GM.
Yep.
Giannis, obviously.
Correct.
And Dame is going to be involved.
Correct. I mean, Dame and Giannis signed off on this because this doesn't happen
absolutely.
without them signing off on it. He looked lost as the head coach because you're in a win now mode for a new coach.
And Dame was never happy.
No.
He called out the team on a couple different occasions that they just weren't playing up to their potential.
Everybody on that team knows Coach Bud. Giannis obviously likes Coach Bud.
Sure.
I could bring him back. Doc Rivers, I think, is going to end up being the hire, which I don't understand why. He won a championship with a team that was destined to win a championship no matter who was the head coach of that team.
Yeah, well, the Bucks are in the same position.
Are they destined to win a championship versus a very good Celtics team?
If Middleton comes back and plays up even close to where he was, you've got Dame, plus you've got some great supporting cast this year. Yes, they're ready to win.
I'm not saying they're not ready to win.
They can't give up 100 and what was the points?
120.
You can't give up those kind of points.
That's insane. When you look at the Celtics are giving up 110 points per game. That's a 10-point swing. The Cavaliers are 109. The Timberwolves are best at 107. I mean, if you look at the top 10, the worst is the Bulls, which is 112 per game. That's an 8-point swing. That's a big deal in the NBA when you're talking about average points allowed after 43 games.
You've got to be better than that. And your defense, granted, Dame was never a big defensive guy,
right?
But everybody else around him has to play lockdown defense. Giannis is really good.
You can't say that Dame coming in wasn't a good defensive player. He's still an NBA player. The guy knows how to play defense.
He, of course, does, but that's not what he's known for.
But he came here because he wanted to play more defense. That was a big part of it. He was excited about that. He talked about it all the time. He's like, I'm excited with Adrian Griffin, or Griffith, that Adrian Griffin, I said that right, that he was excited to learn how to play defense and be a better defensive player because that's what the Bucks have been known for, is their defense.
Well, don't forget, one of the main reasons on the Bucks that they had that they no longer had was
Drew Holiday.
Drew Holiday in Boston. Thank you for reading my mind.
I got your back. Yeah, but you can't when you have the rest of the team coming back. Your hip okay? You just had a spasm there.
No, I just kind of slipped.
God, you're old. One of the main reasons Drew Holiday was expendable in that situation is because you had the other players like Brook Lopez. You still have Chris Middleton, who's a good defensive player. You still have Giannis, who is up for Defensive Player of the Year. you have the pieces around that have been good defensive players on that team in that system.
You do.
You can't blame one player for your defense all of a sudden going bad.
I'm not blaming any player. I think they weren't properly coached.
No. And
that was clear. It was a bad situation. I think the Bucks made a very hard but very good decision to just start over. This was being talked about, honestly, back as early as the midseason tournament or the preseason
this was
tournament.
Talking about them in preseason.
Yeah.
In preseason, they could see that this was a bad decision. You knew this was coming. You knew it was going to happen. And the Pistons, giving up 120 points to the Pistons on back-to-back nights,
losing 3 out of 4 to Indiana, you just can't do that.
You can't. Indiana is not a team you lose to, especially with the in-season tournament, the way that they lost there. Obviously, everybody was really upset by that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a good decision. It's something that had to be made, and we'll see if Doc Rivers is the answer. It sounds like it's going to be.
We'll know.
My thought is, then why didn't you just hire him in the first place?
I think they wanted to get a defensive specialist. They thought this guy was, this guy was in Toronto. This guy was in Toronto.
Right.
They won. They beat the Bucks, so they were familiar with him. I think they just wanted to give him a shot.
I tell you what, he's going to have a hard time coming back finding a head coaching job.
He'll be an assistant
fired after a 30-13 record and not able to work with superstars, and that's the reason you're fired. He's going to have a hard time finding a head coaching gig someplace else. But enough of the Milwaukee Bucks, because we have another team we need to talk about from Wisconsin. And let me tell you, I've been depressed before. I don't know if I've ever been more depressed after the Packers lose to the 49ers in a game that they should have won.
With 8 minutes and 32 seconds, there was an 82% probability that the Packers would win.
Yeah, I made the comment to you. I said, yeah, Seattle would need to happen. And I regret saying that because that's basically what happened. Not in the same degree.
No.
Because we never had a really 2-point lead with 5 minutes left, or 2-score lead, I should say. But man, that one stings. And let me tell you, the people that are saying, well, it's a moral victory because we have the first year of Jordan Love under our belt and blah, blah, blah. No, when you have a chance to win, you win.
Correct.
Period. Bottom line, end of story. You have a kicker that should have been cut halfway through the season. You have Savage, who the fact that he made this team is because we didn't draft a safety. And by the way, we didn't draft Brian Branch, who was drafted by Detroit. We actually traded with Detroit so they could draft Brian Branch, who made several interceptions in the playoffs so far to help the Lions win this game. Imagine if he would have been in that situation, that would have been a pick six. Like, he makes one play like he did out in Dallas where he made that pick six, and then he gives up the interception where he drops it. He gives up a big play to Christian McCaffrey by missing a tackle, and that touchdown was a blown assignment by Darnell Savage.
Correct.
He cost us 21 points. A single player on defense cost us 21 points.
What have I said for weeks and months and months and months about the Packers? LaFleur has a couple major flaws.
Yeah.
The biggest of which, there's two big ones. One, he is a bad in-game coach. When they were scripted in the first half, and they were scripted almost the entire first half,
Correct. They
were in lead. When they had to ad-lib in the second half, 3 and out. Jordan Love, it was his first time with that kind of pressure on him, and he folded a little bit.
Jordan Love also pulled a Brett Favre.
I've heard that from people. I'm numb to that. I saw it so often with Favre. It was just like, oh, here we go again.
Like, he tried to make a big play at the end of the game. The issue was we still had a lot of time left in that game.
We had a minute left.
There was a lot of time where he could have done more with that. It's the first time I've ever seen his feathers really get rough.
Yeah,
he was nervous, and the moment was too quick.
Earlier in the game, instead of running for the first down when he could have done that, he tried to drop one off to Aaron Jones. I think it's a learning experience for him. I'm going to fault LaFleur again for his play calling, especially in the fourth quarter, but also for not bringing in Mason Crosby or another veteran after the Dallas experience,
right,
to go up against Carlson, who clearly was not ready for this kind of pressure. Just wasn't.
Well, I mean, let's be honest. Carlson has missed 13 kicks this year.
Yeah.
13 kicks. And for him to say off the record or not, and I think it was off the record, but it was reported that he said, anytime we get Carlson goes up to kick, I pray.
I think
We've heard that before with the special teams.
I think that was Ian Rappaport that it was said to, or tweeted it out. I'm not sure which.
I'm not sure how it got out, but It definitely was said. And that's the second time I've heard that in his career where he said that about his special teams. Like, Carlson should have been cut. And the people that say Mason Crosby missed the game-winning field goal for the Giants at the end of the season, well, he hadn't kicked all year. That was his first game all year. I don't want to hear it. And that was also a 54-yard field goal, which he doesn't have that in his arsenal anymore.
No, but he has a 40
years old.
He has a 41-yarder.
From 45 and in, he's still automatic.
Right.
It wouldn't surprise me to see him back. Carlson cannot be the answer going forward. This isn't like when Mason Crosby had a bad year and they brought him back. No, he's been bad from the word go. He was a 60% field goal kicker with Auburn.
Right.
It was questionable why we hired, or why not why we hired him, but why we drafted him and brought him in the first place.
And we talked about it on our draft show. Why would you draft a guy who's only 60%?
I don't know. And it cost us. It 100% cost us. You can say it's not his fault. We had other opportunities in the game, and LaFleur came to his defense, which is good for LaFleur, but that is his fault. It's 100. He missed an extra point in that game, which was nullified by the 2-point conversion.
Okay.
But he missed a big-time field goal in a big-time situation and missed it bad.
It wasn't close.
And it's the same field goal he's missed all year. On the left hash mark, he pulls it left. The fact that you have all these practices as a kicker and you don't correct that,
I saw a report.
That's on you.
I saw him that he came out and said, well, the wind was blowing right to left, so I aimed, and it just went right on me. No, you janked it to the right.
Correct.
Or to the left, rather. And it was never on target. That never for a second had a chance to go in.
Nope. He kicks so weird. I hate how he kicks. It doesn't make sense. And having a good leg where you can boom it 60+ yards doesn't mean that you're accurate. And when you're a kicker, you need accuracy over. I'll take a field goal kicker that can make it from 45 and in automatic all day long than having a kicker that can kick it 68 yards, but is going to miss easy ones every now and then.
You can't miss in that kind of a game. You can't miss it. And again, it comes back to what I said. Administrative decisions are where LaFleur fails the most.
Correct.
And we're going to run into that now that we're in the offseason. We all heard the after press conferences. Joe Barry is going to be the biggest signal for me. Everybody's going, well, the defense was good the last couple games. Overall this year, that defense wasn't good. They need a new set of eyes and a new scheme.
You know how many times we
rushed? Better be full.
You know how many times we actually blitzed against the Niners?
How many?
0 times.
Yeah, and look what Brock Purdy did. I mean, Jordan Love was a better quarterback. Clearly that
the Packers were a better team that day.
They were all day long. They should have won that game. Brock Purdy, give him credit for going down and scoring on that last minute or 3 minutes of the drive. But in the end, we never should have lost that game. And there's a lot of blame to go around. I'm laying a lot of it hands at the feet of Matt LaFleur again.
But how can you lay it at the hands of Matt LaFleur? Like, the game was played well. I mean, the last play call where you forced Jordan Love into throwing a deep ball when you shouldn't have, yeah, that was a bad play call. But Jordan Love also had a mile and a half to run on that play where he could have made a move.
Look,
I don't. You know me. I'm not a LaFleur fan. I haven't been. I've been bashing him on the show all season long. I don't think you can blame LaFleur.
Oh, I do. I do, because what happened in the fourth quarter? 3 and out. The play calls have to be more creative. And when you get to the red zone 3 times in the first half, you better be creative enough to find a way to get into the end zone. And they didn't. They weren't even close.
The red zone was bad, but here's the thing. The big turning thing in the game was that first down they didn't make in the first quarter. Right. And LaFleur, or not LaFleur, but Jordan Love made it across the line.
In that case, if you're going to do the tush-push type thing, you don't want Christian Watson back there, call a timeout. He
made it. That was the first down.
You can blame the refs if you want to.
I don't ever blame the refs.
If I'm on the road,
the refs.
If I'm on the road in a very hostile environment, I'm kicking a field goal there and taking my points.
No, you got to score to beat the number 1 team in the league. And
we had already.
No, we hadn't. It was a smart play.
No, I think they should have taken
the right move. You should have given it to Aaron Jones, who wasn't being stopped all season long. I don't get why you don't do that, but he got the first down. From every angle on television, he got the first down.
Why didn't you throw a red flag?
It was a turnover, automatic review, and they didn't overturn it. That's on the refs.
I agree. He got it.
The refs screwed over the Packers.
I still think you take the points in that situation.
Yeah, looking back now,
I told you that as the game was going
Got
on,
the first down, though. That was a first down.
but yet it wasn't.
It was, though.
It wasn't.
It was. That was a first down.
You
The
can
refs took
say
it
it
away.
was all you want. The refs and the upstairs refs and the New York refs, whatever, said it wasn't.
I will say that you have this whole idea of Packers fans saying this is a moral victory. Like, I'm happy we don't have to talk about the quarterback this offseason. It makes me really happy that that's not a discussion. But you don't know when you're going to get back there again. How many times as a Packer fan have we gotten there, lost, and not gotten back there again? You just don't know when that opportunity is going to arise again.
What's it been, 5 times since LaFleur's been here, it seems like?
Right.
Every time we get to San Francisco.
You got to get over that hump. It's got to be next year where we get over that hump, especially against San Francisco.
Well, let me ask you this.
LaFleur's got to go.
I think we can agree Jordan Love exceeded expectations up until the San Francisco game.
Up until the last drive.
The last drive. It's going to be interesting to see how he recovers from that, if he recovers or goes into a slump. I loved what he said after the game.
He recovered after October when most quarterbacks wouldn't.
I loved what he said after the game. I think he's angry about it. He's going to learn from it.
Yeah.
I don't see it happening again because I think he wants that position now.
Yeah.
He wants the ball.
Yep.
They're going to make him one of the top 2 or 3 highest paid quarterbacks in the league.
Yep.
I got into an online argument with a Viking fan.
You,
me?
No.
Yeah, with a Viking fan? That shocks everybody. The Viking fan was calling Jordan Love the most overrated quarterback in the league. Now, you know me. I've been one of those saying, look, let's see him play for a couple of years before we tag him as the next Hall of Fame quarterback.
He's the next Hall of Fame quarterback.
He is not underrated.
Nope.
He is a stud. Packers, with what they've done since Favre, then Rodgers letting him sit for 3 years, letting Jordan Love sit for 3 years was the only way he was going to succeed.
Yep.
Give him credit for working his ass off.
He did.
He was up to the challenge, which I've seen really good quarterbacks fold under that pressure of having to follow an icon.
Yeah.
He didn't. Now he's going to get paid. I'm not worried about that because I think his parents were outstanding. Correct. He's going to remain humble. I think he's going to work even harder.
Yep.
I'm not putting a gold jacket on him yet. I still want to see him for 3 years, 4 years.
I'll make it for him. He's got that gold jacket. It's a done deal. Let me ask you one other thing. Was this argument on Facebook?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, it was actually a YouTube.
Oh. I just see, with your age, I figured it was on Facebook you were having these arguments.
Stop?
You blame LaFleur for administrative things, which you're not wrong. But there's another former Packer we need to talk about with administrative decisions. Did you hear what Devante Adams had to say?
Yeah.
That he
wanted to catch. Somebody asked him, in the league right now, who'd you like to catch balls from the most? Taking Aaron Rodgers out of it.
Okay.
Kirk Cousins, which surprised me, but he played against him for years, and Jordan Love.
Are you saying that Devante Adams said he'd catch balls from Kirk Cousins and Jordan Love? That's gross.
Only you. Only you.
I am not the only one that thought that. The rest of our audience thought this as well.
No, they didn't.
And those that didn't, I brought them there.
No,
and you're welcome. Yeah. He said he'd catch balls.
Way to take a good, wholesome show and just turn it.
I'm not the one who said they'd catch balls from 2 other dudes. Okay?
Football.
That's not my words. That's what somebody else said.
The question is, changing the subject really quickly, if you're Gutekunst, do you even try to trade for Adams?
I mean, I don't think he'll ever come back to Green Bay. The damage has been done in that situation. Do I think Adams regrets not staying in Green Bay? Yeah, 100%. I think he does. But if he doesn't leave, does everything happen that happened? I don't know. I don't question what could have been. You just really have to look at what is. But I think the reality that Kirk Cousins is going to Vegas is really about to happen.
I don't think Adams is leaving. He wanted Pierce to be the head coach.
Yep, they made that happen.
I think the Jets are going to make a big play for him with whatever draft capital they have.
Let's be honest, the Raiders couldn't afford to hire a new coach. They're still paying out John Gruden. They're going to be paying out Josh McDaniels for years to come. Like, they had to get a coach they could afford, and Antonio Pierce is a coach that they could afford, and they hope that he's going to overachieve.
Well, he had a decent run at the end of the year with no quarterback at all.
Yeah. And that's where I think Kirk Cousins is going to be the answer. Jimmy Garoppolo clearly was not. Derek Carr, I still think, was a good quarterback for the Raiders.
I do too.
I really do. And Josh McDaniels just didn't like him.
No, he never wanted him there.
And forced Davis's hand, the owner Davis's hand. It's going to be interesting to see, because if I'm Kirk Cousins, I'm leaving Minnesota. They haven't shown me love. I've had to play on these yearly contracts time and time and time again. You let me go to my last contract. He was having an MVP season, which again I called. They were a team that would have kept the Packers out of the playoffs, that would have made a push for the division, if not win the division, and would have been competing against the Niners as the best team in the NFC. I strongly believe they were turning into that. And then they went through the quarterback carousel that was, because Brian Flores had that defense cooking.
Brian Flores, who could have been a Packers defensive coordinator.
Should have been. Could have, should have, would have. Again, we can't look to what could have been. We have to look at what
I know. I'm just throwing it out there. Kirk Cousins, I don't think
it makes perfect sense for Vegas.
He doesn't go back to Minnesota for all the reasons you said. My only question is, he's an older quarterback. I know Rodgers healed quickly from his Achilles. Is Kirk Cousins on the same path? I think he will. He'll work real hard.
Listen, it's modern medicine. We can't question what can happen. I mean, if you look at surgeons that are the best, if I want somebody working on me as a surgeon, I want somebody who works with athletes or somebody who is in the military, because they see injuries nobody else ever sees. And they know how to work in that. I mean, you look at military doctors, they see
everything,
things that they shouldn't see.
No one should see it.
And in sports injuries, you see guys that, okay, not only do I have to fix this, but I have to fix this so they can move again in a very athletic way.
Well, and case in point, I had a great doctor. He did a great job. But the guy I had that did my right hip 10 years ago, worked with Olympic athletes, worked with Tampa Bay Lightning. He was a team doctor. It was just a different procedure. The guy I had this time, while it was great, I think works with a lot of people who are way more sedentary.
Right.
And not that I'm an athlete anymore, but I made it very clear, look, I'm not going to sit around. I want to get back and start working out as quickly as possible. And I'm still not in PT. I start next week. That just boggles my mind.
You're old now.
I'm not old. But
you're old.
You're right about that. And Cousins has a good surgeon. He'll be back and ready to play. I think it's a perfect fit for him in Vegas.
What is Kirk Cousins? 37, 38 years old. I mean, he still has a lot of time to heal. He's much closer to my age than he is your age, which benefits him quite a bit. And he's a peak athlete.
Yeah, he's a world-class athlete.
He's one of the best quarterbacks in the league. And in Vegas, that could make them a dangerous team. And I don't know where else he could go unless it's Minnesota. I really don't.
Atlanta.
Actually, Atlanta is the place I'd want to go. Atlanta is the place I'd want to go. The question is, who's going to be the coach there? They just interviewed Belichick again. I think it's either Harbaugh, who they want, who I have said all along, if I'm Harbaugh, that's where I want to go. If they can't get Harbaugh, it's going to be Bill Belichick. And then they need a quarterback.
That's the biggest question.
Which brings us to some of the craziest stuff I have ever seen. The mock drafts came out.
The way, way, way too early mock drafts. Kuiper came out with his, and we've got a couple other ones we've looked at. I don't agree with any of them.
The Bucky Brooks one from NFL.com is the one I've really been looking at. But there's something similar with every draft I've seen.
They're all taking quarterbacks in the first three.
The Bears are taking Caleb Williams, according to every... I don't know if you're the... Why would you do that if you're the Bears?
Look, everybody is saying Caleb Williams is this generational talent. I saw a kid who completely folded last year in his senior year.
Well, the year before was putting FUCK, other teams' names and logos on his fingernails for every game.
I don't want a person
That's
like that.
An immature child.
Yeah, I don't want that person to be the face of my franchise. You've got a good quarterback with Jordan Love.
Justin Fields.
Justin Fields. Jordan Love, sorry. No, the Bears are not going to get Jordan Love.
Packers do have a good
Justin Fields.
Jordan Love.
But if I'm the Bears and I can go and get a difference maker wide receiver like a Ken and Marvin Harrison Jr.,
right,
that's where I go. And then if I need a quarterback next year, I can go and get one at that time.
That's what I'm saying. But if they do draft Caleb Williams, that means that Justin Fields is being traded.
Probably to Atlanta.
And that's where Atlanta comes into play. And that's what makes them a very, very dangerous team. Justin Fields, the game at the last little bit finally looked like it's slowing down for him. And that's the key for every single quarterback. That game, you hear from NFL athletes all the time, there is no comparison to the college game versus the NFL game. It's like you're playing a different sport. The speed, the strength, the strategy, the vision that is required to be an elite NFL player is a different level.
It's completely different. The speed is not just speeded up a little bit.
Talent can't
speed it up a lot.
Talent alone is not enough in the NFL, where it is in college. Talent alone can make you a very, very good college player. Talent alone will not get you there in the NFL. The game just started to slow down for Justin Fields, and that makes him a dangerous player. And if the Bears decide to move on to get especially an immature quarterback like Caleb Williams,
I tell you what, I don't want Caleb. If Caleb Williams is coming and he's going to have a defensive-minded head coach again,
right,
I don't think that's a good fit. Justin Fields, the Packers have benefited from having a lot of offensive-minded head coaches. That's why they could let their quarterback sit for 3 years,
right,
because they'll develop. That's not the case with Justin Fields. He's suffered because he hasn't had a really good mentor.
Correct.
I want to get him a really good offensive coordinator, quarterback coach, and I'll ride with him for another year. I don't think that's going to happen. I think they're falling in love with the next big thing, and that's going to be Caleb Williams. I think it's a mistake.
Which is what the Bears do. I mean, it's what they always do. But if I'm Atlanta, though, I'm hoping they make that trade. The question is, if you're the Bears, when do you make that trade of Justin Fields? I got to imagine you're going to do it right after the season. Just let everybody know.
Why would you wait until the draft time to do it? You're not going to get anything more for him.
You'll get the most right now to make that trade.
Well, I heard somebody saying that Atlanta would give up, what do they have, number 11?
8.
Okay, number 8 for Justin Fields, which is ridiculous because when he was drafted, he was number 11.
Right.
He's not worth more than a second-round pick at this point.
I mean, I think he is, especially for Atlanta, but there's no reason to give more than that.
He's not
on the ropes.
He's not worth the 8th pick in the draft.
I mean, agree to disagree.
He's not.
Is he worth it? Yeah, 100%. Should you give the Bears that pick when you're the only team that's going to be trading for him? No.
Justin Fields in his time has not showed that he was a number 8 worth a number 8 pick. It just hasn't.
I mean, I think he did.
This isn't Brett Favre getting Ron Wolf trading the number 1 for Brett Favre, who ended up being a Hall of Famer. Justin Fields is nowhere near that good.
He was in Atlanta drinking himself out of the league. Yeah, it's a little bit different. You have a commodity that you know what you're getting.
He knew what Favre was. He had watched him for a long time.
Sure. You're right.
There you go.
Trading the number 8 overall pick for Justin Fields would be a much better decision than Ron Wolf trading a first-round pick.
Roll it back. Stop with "you're right," and that's all that needs to be said.
No, I needed to explain that was sarcasm to the nth degree.
No. He's not worth it.
Trading a number 1 pick for Brett Favre was the luckiest thing that ever happened to the Green Bay Packers because we were the only one playing in that dance.
Well, and that's why he offered number 1. He wanted to make sure he was going to get him.
Yeah, that wasn't. And then he failed his physical, and we had passed the physical. Like, that was. Don't get me wrong, Brett Favre. I love Brett Favre.
Yes.
Like, I love Brett Favre for everything he is and everything he was.
I also love
that was a gamble that paid off.
Yeah. Ron Wolf was a gambler, and it was the right decision to make.
It turned out to be the right decision.
Absolutely, it did.
That when you had a serviceable quarterback at the time, you gave up a number 1 when you had a quarterback who had just led the league in passing yards, was one of the first quarterbacks to throw 4,000 yards in the NFL.
Don Majkowski was a very good quarterback.
Right.
Never made a comeback.
He got injured, and it
was a different time. That injury happens today. Majkowski is back.
Ron Wolf got lucky.
He did.
That worked out.
Let's not go back.
The Falcons trading for Justin Fields today would be much more worth it.
Not worth a number 1 pick by any stretch.
There's worth, and then what you should give for him. If you give him a second-round pick, that's all. You're the only one in the dance. Why would you give up that pick, especially in today's day and age, when those picks are valued a lot more than what they used to be?
Yeah, he's not worth a number 1. You've seen him play on the field, and his play on the field has not generated anything that would be close to me giving up a first-round pick for him. Not even if it was 32.
Okay, Brett Favre was drafted in the second round, right? And you're saying it's worth it for the Packers to give up what was number 16, by the way. It was the 16th overall pick.
Yeah, hindsight is really good.
I'm just making sure you're judging this not on the same situation. Enough of Justin Fields. We have different football to talk about. The NFL playoffs happened. I did not do good. I've told you several times, do not trust what I say, and it's proven again. I went 1-3 last week. You, on the other hand, here is your crown, 3-1.
Sadly. I mean, I took San Francisco. I thought they'd win, but they were not the better team.
No.
And that's going to lead us to Conference Championship Sunday.
Yes.
You've got Detroit at San Fran, and you've got KC going to Baltimore.
Both are going to be good games. San Francisco showed that they're beatable. We don't know if Deebo Samuel's going to be back. Listen, if there is a team of destiny out there right now, it is the Detroit Lions.
San Francisco is beatable. I think Detroit not only wins, they win by 10.
Oh, I don't think it's going to be that much.
Because Deebo Samuel is not going to be ready to play.
You never know. We'll see how the shoulder is. It was a shoulder, not a concussion, so it's a little bit different on how long he can stay out. We don't know that for sure, but I think Detroit's going to go into San Francisco, win, go to the Super Bowl for the first time.
Kansas City, on the other hand, has to go up against the MVP, which I don't think anybody's even questioning whether Lamar Jackson is going to be the MVP. He is. The question's going to be, I mean, Kansas City is a team that's on top of the mountain right now and is about to start sliding down a little bit, because that's what happens in NFL. You only stay up there for so long.
Patrick Mahomes still showed he's Patrick Mahomes.
He did. He went into Buffalo. And speaking of Buffalo, just one little side note. If I'm Buffalo, I'm also reaching out to Belichick and Harbaugh.
For what?
Josh Allen is that entire team. They weren't very creative. It went through, everything was Allen. They've got to be more creative. I think if you go out and you get a proven winner.
McDermott's not an offensive coordinator.
Bill Belichick could take that team and I think probably get them to the Super Bowl. I think the attitude change alone would be you'd see that. But that's for later on.
McDermott fired his offensive coordinator midseason, made the administrative decision that you are blaming LaFleur for not doing.
Yeah.
And it turned that team around.
It
took
did.
them from not making the playoffs to the number 2 seed and in a game that they should have won against Kansas City.
But they didn't. And I think
Okay.
Bill's Mafia is going to be pushing to maybe get another look if they can get somebody like a Belichick who's beaten them for years. You can put him on the sideline. Number one, Patriot fans would lose their minds. But I think it might be the difference.
I think Belichick today is way more overrated than what everybody's giving him credit for. But we'll save that for another show. You got to make your pick, KC or Baltimore.
As much as I said KC's at the top and is getting ready to slide, I'm not betting against Mahomes.
You're going KC?
I'm going KC.
I'm going Baltimore all day long. Lamar Jackson's going to get over that hump this week. It is going to be a Lions-Ravens Super Bowl. But I tell you what, if it is a San Francisco-Baltimore Super Bowl, I'm getting on the bandwagon of this whole things being rigged thing, because this is the 3rd or 4th year in a row that the colors of the Super Bowl would be the colors of the two teams that play in the Super Bowl. So part of the reason I'm cheering for the Lions, because I don't want to have to believe in this stupid conspiracy theory. But if San Francisco and Baltimore both win, I'm all in, guys. I'm with you on the conspiracy train. Save me a seat. I got Lions.
Really?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay.
If it's the 4th year in a row where the colors of the Super Bowl are the colors of the teams that play in the Super Bowl, listen, I'm allowing it to be a coincidence right now. But if it happens again, especially if the calls on the field are questionable towards another team, yeah, I'm saying this is rigged.
Okay, we'll find out. I mean, it could easily be San Francisco and Baltimore.
If it is, I'm jumping on the conspiracy theory train.
They're both the number 1 seed.
If I'm the NFL and I hear this conspiracy theory, my colors are the Panthers colors and whatever other colors are out there for a bad AFC team. I don't even know. Those are my colors. Like, you have to make the color scheme so it's not. I'm sure it's just them picking who they think are going to be in there. Like, let's just make a wild guess. But if it's 4 years in a row, choo-choo, I'm hopping aboard.
You would.
Lions at Baltimore and me. You got San Francisco at Kansas City or Lions at Kansas City for the Super Bowl?
I've got Detroit.
So you're taking Lions with KC.
Lions and KC. I'm going for the upsets on both ends.
All right. Those are some great picks. We have had a great show, but as you all know, you cannot have a conversation with your father without your dad getting the last word, so it is all you.
So, a couple weeks ago, something happened that just proved to me why no one watches network TV anymore. I don't know if anybody else watched it, but CJ Stroud had just beaten the Cleveland Browns, and he was interviewed, and the first words out of his mouth proved to me that he's not only humble, but his faith is deep, because he said, first and foremost, I want to thank my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. And then went on to thank the amazing fans and everything that got them to where they were at that point. NBC, why? Why would you cut his first statement? Why? Because you obviously think that nobody is Christian in this country anymore. Play the whole clip. There's nothing wrong with America hearing that CJ Stroud, one of the faces of the NFL, believes and has a deep faith in Jesus Christ. If it would have been any other religion, you would have let it go. This attack on Christianity in this country has got to stop. And the way it stops is by the networks actually playing the clips and playing the statements of their highlighted players. This frustrates me to no end. We're still a Christian country. We're a religious country. And whether it's Muslim, Jewish, whatever, they have a right to say what they want to, and the networks should have the obligation to play what the player has said. So congratulations to CJ Stroud for not only being a very good Christian, but being a leader of the nation and showing America once again that yes, salvation is available through Jesus Christ, and the country really needs to go back.
Thank you so much, as always, for watching. Thank you for watching 150. This has been amazing to get this far. This has been Sports Talk with Dad, and as always, we'll see you next week.
Thanks, everybody.